Hey guys, I'm Riley Whalen, and this is the At Long Last podcast with Riley Whalen. Today, I'm joined today by my good friend, Ashley Gaede. Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm a little nervous, but excited.
I know,
So
we're
thanks.
at round 2 now.
Yes, round 2.
It's all right. We had technical difficulties last time, but that was just a test run. We're back and better than ever. But yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your story. I guess my first question would be like, what was your early childhood like?
Well, I guess not too long ago, I would have said it was really great. And that was because, through getting sober, I had to really shift my focus and not from this victim mentality to a survivor mentality. And, but how it is today, I suffered a lot of abuse as a kid. I endured trauma from ages 4 to 11. It was sexual abuse. And so, yeah, to say I had a normal childhood would not be accurate. And to say that it was fine would not be accurate. My mom was wonderful and she knew nothing that was going on. A lot of my family had no clue what was going on.
Mm.
Nobody knew what was going on. Let's put it that way, except for me and the perpetrator. So I think that kind of like laid the canvas to a lot of obsessive behaviors and controlling behaviors that I had to try to control the outside because my insides were so out of whack.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that you knew the person.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it a family member?
It was somebody that married into the family. So
Okay.
not blood relation, but yeah, under the guidelines of a safe person.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
I can't even imagine. And that happened like throughout what were the years?
4 to 11. So real formidable years, when we think of child development and brain development.
Was justice served?
Justice was served in the sense that I took him to court, and, he was found guilty, had to be labeled as such, and didn't live the rest of his years in a pleasant way. Let's just put it that way. He wasn't incarcerated, but things happened, to him, as far as health.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're experiencing, sexual abuse. What was academically or like household like? What was that like? Was everything just seemingly normal? What was the family dynamic? You mentioned that you had a mom, but was your dad present in your life?
So my dad, my parents divorced when I was young.
Okay.
So my dad, he was pretty much out of the picture. And when he would come in the picture, it was anybody's guess if he was sober or not. And a lot of times he wasn't. And so he wouldn't be allowed to see us. I think early on, I kind of just, wiped my hands of him. It was probably a self-protection mechanism. So he really wasn't a part of my childhood, really. But I had a step, right. He was alcoholic and an addict, who later died of this illness. But he and I did get to reconcile in some type of a way.
Yeah.
And I made peace with that. But I turned out to have the exact illness that I hated him for having for so many years. So that was, ironic.
It's always like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always like
There's a lot
that.
of irony in that.
I know.
But yeah, so I did very well in school.
Okay.
I was popular amongst my peers.
Love it.
Very high functioning as far as in my elementary school years with everything that was going on.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So, I mean, you have all of this chaos going on, but I showed up at school pretty much from what I can remember, and my grades show as a very high achiever.
Okay.
Where I wasn't so high achieving is emotional maturity. And so, back then there would be these report cards and it was like your grades. And then they gave like a behavioral grade, unsatisfactory or satisfactory. And it's like these different categories. And I remember looking back over my report cards, some years or decade later, and there were so many unsatisfactory. And it was all because like I couldn't control my emotional nature. Which I mean is obviously because of the abuse that's going on,
Right.
right? So yeah, that was happening. My mom started getting me in to see therapists, and a lot of it was blamed on my parents' divorce,
Mm.
which I mean, I'm sure a lot of it stemmed from that. But
She didn't know what was going on,
she did
obviously.
not know what was going on. I wasn't telling what was going on. I was threatened. If I did say, by the perpetrator did say what was going on, certain things would happen. So yeah, I just held it all in the best I could as, a kid. And the way it came out was like an obsessive child. Everything had to be organized. Everything looks had to be perfect. I wanted to like dictate what my sister wore to school. My grades had to be perfect. If they weren't, I would have meltdowns. So if any of these things that I deem having to be perfect were not perfect, then I would have a literal meltdown. And we're looking like a 10-year-old having a meltdown. So it's not cute, right? So that was, that was what childhood looked like. But I mean,
Yeah.
I come from a big Southern family, and there was so much love. So much love. I mean, always at the beach, staying with my aunt and uncle on weekends, all of my different aunt and uncles, and just lots of great memories.
I love that. And it sounds like your mom was like a girl boss.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like she held the household down.
she did. She did.
What got like, I just want to circle back. So what did that point where you got honest like look like? Like, what did it take to get you to where like you were, I mean, it sounds like your mom probably was really receptive and believed you, which like I hear like sometimes kids go to their parents and say that they're suffering from abuse and like their parent blames them or doesn't believe them. And
Sure. Yeah, and that's got to be the most devastating thing. I
I
mean,
know.
talk about insult to injury. No, how it happened for me was I was 11 years old, and I didn't end up telling until I was 13. So the abuse stopped when I was 11, but from 11 to 13, here I am, an adolescent. And
Yeah.
I'm starting to experiment with alcohol and partying, and, partying for what partying can be when you're that age. I'm at a private school where a lot of my cousins who are older go to that private school. And so I am dabbling in some partying, and it's just getting to be very apparent that I need to tell, because it's really weighing on me. I start getting in a little bit of trouble at school, like behavioral trouble, not with grades.
Not unsatisfactory. It was different.
Well, it was unsatisfactory like that, but the A pluses were still there. I was so much of a perfectionist in that way. Never mind how I act, but my grades are great.
Yeah.
So, what happened? I'd gotten in trouble for pepper spraying a toilet.
Okay.
Okay. Details irrelevant. But here I was in trouble, 13 years old.
Yeah.
My mom is like, "What is going on with you? We're at home. My sister's there. It's my mom." She's just like, "I cannot believe this, Ashley. This is, you just got expelled from school."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I go, "I've been lying about so much, in this very dramatic way." And out it came, right?
yeah.
So there started this process of getting the officials involved, getting
Wow.
him arrested. It was a whole drawn out thing because he was in another state, but my mom stopped at nothing to have justice, well, to have my day in court, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened. But all during this, here I am gearing up, my alcoholism, my drug addiction's gearing up, because I found an outlet where I'm not the girl that was abused.
Yeah.
I'm cool. I can hang out with my friends, and everything can just like fade away. All of that tension can just fade away. So I turned to drugs and alcohol a lot more. I start dating an older guy. He's, all the things you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Hanging out with people that are using just like I am and drinking just like I am.
My favorites.
And it was fun. Like, it was an
Yeah.
escape from that seriousness of coming
Absolutely.
home and having to look and having to speak with solicitors, and if I'm going to take the stand or what I'm going to say in court, and go into therapy and all of these things that I just didn't want to be doing. It was like, okay, now I've told, and now I have all this other stuff
Yeah.
going on.
And that's why I asked, because it seems like, that would just be like such a process to handle at 13 years old. Like, and even from the time that you suffered the abuse to the time like justice or whatever you want to call it even was served, it just seems like that would be such a daunting process. Like almost no wonder that you turned to alcohol.
Yeah.
Was your first time drinking at 13?
No. My perpetrator actually gave me alcohol. So the first time I reached for alcohol on my own accord was I want to say I must have been about 11.
Yeah.
It was like a beer from my parents' fridge, my mom
Yeah.
and stepdad. And then I talked to my friend who was like staying the night into drinking some liquor. She passed out and threw up. And I'm like, oh, great, I got to clean this up. And it was kind of apparent that, you know, I was able to control my alcohol, so to speak, a little bit better than, you know, these other people that I was drinking around or
Yeah.
bringing into the fold to drink around me at 11 and 12.
Okay.
And so I had to shift the people I was drinking with, because people at 11 and 12, I mean, these were girls that were just staying the night with me. And they were like, yeah, I don't know about this. Or
You
getting
needed
sick.
professionals.
I needed some qualified drinkers, right? Not this amateur level. So I switched gears in who I was hanging out with and drinking, or you know, and with the older crowd that kind of like laid the access to getting drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely.
You know.
And so high school, what does that look like? I'm assuming that's your next phase.
Yeah. High school is good. I think because everything happened in a small town. I'm from a very small town in South Carolina, right outside of Charleston.
Mm-hmm. Name drop.
Yeah, it was a pin drop, all right. So it was like I totally rebelled against everything. So the trial goes on. That happens. I'm hanging out with a new crew of people who seem to have some experience drinking and drugging and some access to it. So that's good. I decide that I am going to go full hippie and not wear anything name brand. And I mean, this is probably an attention grab if I'm being serious. You know, I'm like, I look back on it and I was, what was going on?
You're gonna go run off with the Grateful Dead.
Right. So like, I am just this chameleon. Whoever I'm with, I am putting on the clothes and subscribing to whatever they do.
Yeah.
And whatever music they listen to. So I ended up finishing high school early and starting college.
Whoa. Okay.
The guy that I was dating, he had graduated, and honestly, the reason that I knew I needed to get out of there early is because I had missed so many school days by cutting class. And my mom did not know.
Okay.
So I was like, I've got to make an exit out of here and get started on college. So before I got found out, because that was one of my greatest fears, right? Ever since I was a little girl, always worrying that the phone would ring and telling my mom what was going on with the abuse, even though no one knew. But there was like this underlining fear that I was going to be found out, that whatever my secret was going to be found out. It was something that drove my behavior for a very long time. So here I was in high school. I had cut a significant amount of time of school to hang out with this boyfriend who was graduated, or he was actually still a senior, but he didn't have to go to that many classes or whatever. And so I'm just cutting school left and right, and that's, you know, new behavior. So in order to not be found out and looked down upon from my mom, I go and, you know, try to finish school 2 years ahead of time, and then I start college. I end up going into culinary arts just because I figured it was easy.
Yeah.
Now, if you would have told me any years before 13 asked me what I wanted to be, it was going to be like a scientist of some sort. But I knew that like at 16 years old, there was no way I was pulling off any type of science major,
Right.
with the way that drugs and alcohol had become.
Partying came first.
Yeah. Like, there's just no way. So I went into culinary and then eventually bacon and pastry, had boyfriends, had a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a lot of fun had. I remember we went to Amsterdam.
Oh.
I know. It was like, I could convince my mom to buy me like whatever. It really, you know, I thought it served me well, but it really didn't.
Yeah. Like a blessing and a curse.
It was a blessing and a curse.
Manipulation is.
Very much so. But yeah, I ended up graduating. It was Johnson Wells here in Charleston. I graduated baking a pastry program. And what would happen is I was getting these really good jobs.
Yeah.
But the drinking and drugging were getting the way of my jobs every single time. I remember my last year of college, I would have been 20 years old, thinking to myself one day, wow, there hasn't been a single day that I drew a sober breath. And it wasn't followed up by this thought like, oh, I should really stop using drinking. It was just like, oh, just like an awareness of it. Okay. That day and where I was like sticks out to me. I was living on Folly Beach, beachfront,
Wow.
Everything a college party girl could want. And I used it. I mean, I definitely, I did well in school, but I really drove it down with that party life.
Was it just alcohol at this point, or were you like
No,
dabbling?
it was alcohol and cocaine.
Okay. Those
So
were your
alcohol,
first two loves?
they were, well, I really loved hallucinogens and I mean, I've done every except for all that stuff that you buy at the gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never done any of that. But yeah, so the hallucinogens when I was in high school and some in college, but I pretty much did away with the hallucinogens and the ecstasy and all of that and was just alcohol, the occasional Xanax to take off the edge, and cocaine.
Yeah.
I know I speak about this very matter-of-factly, but like that's how it was.
No, seriously.
It was just it was a part of my day as drinking water,
Yeah.
And I didn't drink much water then. It was like Bud Light, vodka, cocaine, Xanax, or any other benzo if I could get my hands on it to kind of keep the edge off. And I mean, marijuana, but I wasn't buying it. It was just like, if it was there, yay. I'm not spending my money on it. That kind of deal.
And what was during your college time? Because Charleston is like such a party town. I couldn't even imagine going to college here, let alone like living on Folly Beach. I live 15 minutes away and still I'm like, I can feel it from there.
Yeah.
Just like the party energy. What was the manageability like at this time? Were you drinking around the clock, or was it like you're an evening warrior? What was that like?
So when I'm in college,
Yeah.
when I'm in college, I'm able to kind of hold it together while I'm in school. I'm not drinking before class.
Okay.
I'm not using before class, smoking weed some before class.
Sure.
But as soon as I got out of class, I'm using all the things.
Okay.
But I was able to, there was I was able to manage, it's just wild to me how I was able to just do like real partying on the weekends.
Yeah.
It was like the last shred of manageability I had, I like put down on those last 2 years of school.
Mm.
So I wasn't failing out of classes. I mean, I graduated summa cum laude.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, and I tell you, after I walked across that stage, I was like,
Yeah.
because the weekends were my only time to really be able to stay up all night and do, really let my hair down how I wanted to. So after college, I was like, yay.
Absolutely.
But what I didn't factor in is you have to like show up on time and in a suitable manner. And like, this isn't a career where you get to goof off and do nothing.
No.
It's a lot of creativity, a lot of, I had to keep up with inventory, plating. There's a lot of like pressure on you.
Yeah.
And if I woke up hungover, then I just did a no call, no show to the job. And I was like executive pastry chef at some places. That's unheard of. You just don't do that. But that's what it meant to me. It was like, whatever. And, I know deep down that bothered me, but I just drink, I just
Quiet
drank.
the voice.
Quiet the voice by continuing to drink and to continue to lie to people. I would lie to my family, like, tell them, oh, they fired me or they had to let me go. You name the crazy stories and manipulation. I mean, I've said it to all of my family.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. If your like mom had picked up on anything while you were in college, because my mom had a little bit and mentioned it to me, but
Yeah.
nothing crazy.
Something must have happened around 20 whenever I got I finished college because, and it's all so fuzzy.
Right.
But my mom, apparently, she had a conversation with me because the next thing I know, I am agreeing to go to treatment
At 20?
at 20.
Oh,
And I
wow.
can tell you that the only time I was agreeing to go to treatment between the ages of 20 and 29 was when somebody was saying, you got to do this or this, like,
We're taking away this.
yeah. So that was the only reason.
Wow.
And so it was blamed on cocaine. I remember that. I went to a 30-day treatment. There was, people brought meetings inside it. I, saw a guy that I liked and didn't take anything serious.
Yeah.
Of course, left on the exact day. I heard 28 days because of the Sandra Bullock movie. So when they said 30, I was not having that.
Those 2 extra days?
Yeah. And I called I caused the biggest uproar over 2 extra days. I mean, like, this is the mind that's there. These people are like, oh boy, does she need sober living? She needs sober living, step down, all the things. And they're like, saying this to me and my mom. I'm like, there is no way. And I convinced my mom that they're taking things overboard and she just needs to pick me up at 28 days. And she does. And, that night I used Oxy for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your first night leaving your first treatment?
Yes.
And how did that, were you in a relationship or like, how did that come to be?
No. I just, I went over to someone's house and they had it. And I was like, yeah, it was like that. And I probably got sick. Can't really remember. It wasn't like it was something I did and I was like, oh, I'm doing this every single day.
Yeah.
I didn't have that feeling. But I continued to drink and use, and I started using harder substances, crack, and eventually heroin.
What?
Yeah.
How do we get to crack and heroin? Wait, okay, so 2 steps back. So you get out of your first treatment center at 20 years old, and you go to treatment from 20 to 29.
No.
Oh.
I didn't go to treatment from 20 to 29 years old. I said anytime I was in treatment. I
In
went
and out. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
A lot of in and out.
I meant in and out. But okay, so you're in and out of treatment from 20 to 29.
That would be the long stint, Riley. 9
Well,
years.
I meant in and out of 20 to 29 because I can't even imagine. So like, when do you think, like, during that time period that your ears maybe started turning on?
None.
No.
There was no turning on anything. 20 to 29 years old. I mean, from really, to tell you that, let's see, from 13 to 29, I did not want to be sober.
Yeah.
Like, I had zero desire whatsoever to be sober. Anytime that maybe I went into treatment or lied and said I wanted to be sober was because I was about to be in trouble or have something taken away or about to be found out for doing some really awful behavior.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
That was it.
That is the truth of the matter.
And so from 20 to 29, you get out of treatment, but how are you keeping that together?
Oh, by manipulating all of my family, I got another job. They're paying my bills. My mom starts, I can't remember what age I was, probably 27 when she starts seeing a therapist that just like really shifts her perspective on things. And, mom stops enabling me and then I start using other family members. But I mean, I used guys, I used family members. I would work here and there.
Yeah.
I'm a survivor. Whatever I have to do.
We're resourceful. Alcoholics are resourceful creatures.
And I mean, my family, I used them for a good many years. And there was that level, there was the guilt that I knew my mother and my grandmother held because of my abuse. And I capitalized on that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's your golden ticket.
That was my golden ticket. So I would throw that in their face, even though they had no clue what was going on.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that. Like, that's the war story, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things I cannot take back.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course, I make a living amends today
For sure.
by showing up as a daughter. But but those are the things I just can't take back. And so I capitalized on their guilt and got my way with everything that I wanted. Other family members saw it for what it was, what I was doing, and tried to intervene as far as, tell my mother or my grandmother to stop. But, there really wasn't any stopping until my mom got in front of this therapist and my grandmother passed away.
Wow.
So it took my grandmother passing away for me to get sober.
Okay. So one other question I had was like, what made you, because going from alcohol and cocaine to heroin is like such a jump. I do know like most people that they normally, once they graduate to heroin, they always start out with alcohol or like benzos or whatever. But like, what made you take that jump?
People around me were doing it.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah. It sounded amazing.
It didn't scare you?
Didn't scare me at all. And I tell you, Riley, when I heard like somebody maybe, didn't survive off of something, I was calling up where they got it from.
Yeah.
I didn't think that there was enough of anything for me to OD on.
Yeah.
So there was never ever like these thoughts of, oh my gosh, if I do this, I'm going to die. It just wasn't. There were none of those for me.
Is that what you wanted though? Like, were you living in so much pain? Like,
I wouldn't have said that then.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, yeah. Especially the older I got, like 27 is when things really started going downhill.
Okay.
So I'd say from 20 to 25 or 20 to 23, a lot of coke and alcohol. 23, somebody doesn't have coke, but they have rock. And so I'm like, okay,
do it.
And it would just be like that kind of situation. Always dabbling in other people's pills if they had pills and stuff like that. I wasn't prescribed them. But so I knew kind of like what the buzz was from opiates.
Sure.
So whenever heroin was in front of me, I was like, absolutely, let's go. So it was just kind of like that evolution of the use history, that how it happened. But I'll tell you, nothing took me down faster than heroin.
Yeah.
It took me down because it costs so much. Because your tolerance.
Yeah.
And
That's
this
what I've heard.
this wasn't like, there wasn't fentanyl. The only fentanyl we were getting back then were like fentanyl patches. Fentanyl wasn't in everything.
Yeah. I got to keep the time frame in mind.
Yeah, it was a totally different time. So yeah, it made me do things that no other substance had made me do.
Yeah.
Some real, a lot of new lows. So that was definitely a beating on my soul.
I mean, you started out as a highly functioning alcoholic and ended up as an on your knees heroin addict. Yeah. Okay. So then at 29, is that the first time that you go to treatment and like actually are receptive to it?
So at 29, I remember there was this evening. I had done a lot of substances throughout the day. I had this boyfriend at the time. We were living together, and it was just like I did not have the energy for battle anymore. A lot of my lies were coming out. My family would find out that I had stolen a lot of money from another family member. Just, the truth about my behavior was about to come out. And so I wanted to die. But this time I wanted to die. I didn't call anybody and give them my sob story. It was like I legitimately wanted to be out there. I did not see my life being changed around. Here I had gone to treatment centers. I had gone to detox in 1 year like 10 times. I'd been to sober livings, all these different places. And so there was just no hope, I thought, for me. So it was that night, I make my boyfriend at the time go to the plasma clinic to give plasma. He thinks I'm doing it with him, and I inform him I'm not. So he gives plasma so I can use some more.
Yeah.
And I'm just in tears. I don't know if I went outside and said a prayer. I don't know what happened, but what I do know is that I took 100 Tylenol PMs
Mm.
down with a double dose, and I went upstairs and I went to sleep for 3 days. I was hoping never to wake up at that point, obviously, but I woke up after 3 days and I called my mom. And so, like I told you, my mom has started seeing that therapist.
Yeah.
And so that shifted our relationship because I wasn't able to get what I wanted from my mom. I just didn't talk to her. And she laid down some boundaries. She took the key away. She said, you know, you can call me during these times.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you money. And so why would I call her, right?
Yeah.
You know, I had no need for her then. So I wake up after those 3 days of sleeping on the Tylenol, 100 Tylenol PMs, all these other substances throughout the day. And I call my mom and I'm like, I need help. I'm ready. And she, I mean, bless the woman, she packs everything up, gets in the car and drives. She was living in Florida at the time, up to my apartment in West Ashley, picks me up, takes me to MUSC. And what happens, you know, here I am at MUSC, which I've been to so many times that year and years past.
They knew you
know,
by name, right?
Yeah, yeah. The MUSC 4 North knew me by first name basis. That's the detox floor. But here we are at the ER, the main hospital ER.
Yeah.
And my mom's telling them what I did, you know, with the PMs. And they're like, oh, we need to send you upstairs because we have to check your body out. Like that can really cause some major issues. And I was like, oh, okay. And so they send me upstairs and I guess they want to start running some tests on me all of a sudden. And I'm detoxing, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I become really combative. They have to strap me to a bed. My mom can only explain it as like an exorcism going on for 3 days. No, I'm not stupid. You shut up, restraints come off, right?
Yeah.
Apparently for 3 days, it was like, I'm just like a maniac in restraint.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that happened. And after 3 days, I guess I shut up or I was just hoarse. And they wheeled me over, handcuffed, on the wheelchair across the street to the Institute of Psychiatry at the MUSC.
It's not funny. It's not
Yeah,
funny.
it's like, I know.
It's just crazy. Like,
Yeah,
where this
that's
disease
not the first time I've been wheelchaired, you know, with handcuffs. But here we go. And I go up there and they're like, Ashley. And I'm like, yes. But I'll tell you, it was the wildest thing, Riley. I mean, here it is. It's a detox floor in a hospital.
Yeah.
So everything is like white. There's no room for like all these colors and stuff, but everything looked different. I felt different. For the first time in my life, I wanted to be sober, earnestly wanted to be sober. And I had zero clue how to do it.
What changed?
I have no idea what changed. Yeah. In Providence.
Something.
Yeah. So I wanted to be sober. All I knew, so here I am and I'm like, you know, I'm calling my mom. I'm like, listen, Mom, I need to go somewhere that is all women, a year-long program. This is coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
All women, year-long program. And it has to have some God focus. Well, next thing I know, I'm like in the city. My parents, they have done spending money on me. And they dropped me off down in Jacksonville, Florida at a very
You don't have to say the name.
hard piping type of program. And you know, I was there for 9 months. I mean, even my parents
You did it?
Yeah. Well, I got kicked out like twice. You know, I didn't maintain sobriety. I used and drank in there because I
Damn.
wasn't tapped into any solution.
Yeah.
But from 30 to 33 years old, I wanted nothing more than to be sober.
Yeah.
And so what I got, I mean, it was wonderful because now I want to be sober and I can't be sober, right?
Yeah.
And I say that's wonderful because now I say that's wonderful because I needed to be shown what powerlessness looked like.
That's right. That's right.
And nothing was, I mean, I felt the full force of when they say powerless over substance.
And did you have knowledge about the disease of alcoholism at that point? Like I always hear, like when you're equipped with the knowledge, but then like I
Yeah.
relapsed, and when I knew everything, but I knew that about the disease, and drinking on that knowledge was so miserable. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
nothing
That's
I
a
can-
special kind of hell. And I would later have that experience.
it is a special kind of hell.
And to answer your question, no, I didn't. And it wasn't for a lack of going to places that told me.
Yeah.
It was that I literally like had earmuffs on.
Yeah.
I would spot a guy in any of these places and I would take them out.
Rehab romance.
Every time.
Yeah.
I was just definitely the most toxic person. So I know I was and so it was none of those places from 28 to 29. I was at a lot of places that told me the truth and I was unwilling to listen and unwilling to hear.
Yeah.
So here I am, and I'm at the Institute of Psychiatry detox, and I tell my mom I need this, really stiff all women's program. Men are the problem. I need God. No. Well, I didn't need a spiritual solution, that's for sure. But I didn't really know what I needed. But these were the things that were coming to me. I ended up, go to that place down there. I end up finding a guy across the street at the men's program.
Perfect.
Of course. And I don't say sober because I'm not tapping into any solution. But what I do learn there is like a reliance on something other than myself, and that I had the ability in my mind to turn my thoughts over.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. So they taught me that it really, I can now see where every place I went helped.
You picked up something different at each.
Absolutely. So, here I was in Florida. And so from 30 to 33, I'd be in Florida. And the only time I was sober is when I'd be in a place. And most of the times when I was in a place, I was finding a way to get stuff. And I was voluntarily there.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. That's true alcoholism and addiction. Like when you want nothing more than to be sober, you are willingly taking yourself there, and then you are sneaking in stuff. And you can leave at any point and go to the store and go you can just walk out.
I know.
But nope.
Getting fucked up at rehab too is another kind of hell.
Oh, awful.
I can't imagine.
Do not recommend. I do not recommend that at all. It was a nightmare.
I know people that have done it and they're like, it's a special kind of hell.
Yes, it's just no fun. No fun at all. You really have to need the substance. Like no one just goes, yeah, I want to go to rehab and get messed up. Right? Like, no, you seriously have a problem.
But you had a true desire to get sober. You just what do you think? I mean, this might be a silly question, but what do you think maybe wasn't clicking then?
I wasn't. What was it clicking then? Okay, let's see. Well, I wasn't willing to. The whole disease concept wasn't clicking.
Mm.
I didn't know.
You didn't understand powerlessness.
I did not understand powerlessness.
Like you thought maybe you'd get it one day.
I did not understand that everyone else had in their brain that they would wake up a sober individual.
Yeah.
That they would wake up completely not inebriated and had this firm plan to stay sober throughout the day. And at some point all of that would go to the wayside and they would drink and use. So I'll give you an example. I was back living at my mom's house in between some rehab stays when they were down in Florida. And this is the powerlessness era.
Okay.
We'll just call it the era.
We'll call it that.
It's a super beneficial era to have. I love that era. I didn't love it while I was living it.
Right.
But I mean,
we can look back now and say yes.
Yes, so useful. So I get up every single morning and I had planned these job interviews. And I had these job interviews to go to. Mom's like, you've got to start working. You're going to work. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to work. Oh, I can't wait to work. I take a shower, I dress in some professional clothes, and I'm going for this job interview. And I am going to this job interview. I'm excited. I've got several of them, actually, every single day.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes in the car ride, this thought would come into my mind. You just need to get a mini bottle to take the edge off. You will sound better once the edge is taken off.
Yeah.
And so I would get a couple of mini bottles and I would never make it to any of those. I'd be on the wrong side of the tracks, taking apart my cell phone because my parents, they're going to hunt me down or something. And, and it's 12 a.m. and my mom has zero clue where I am.
Yeah.
And here I am 32 years old.
I can
Yeah.
relate.
It's not cute and it's sad. And I put myself in a lot of very sketchy and scary positions.
For sure.
So I had no clue that that was the mental obsession. There was something wrong,
Yeah.
so much so I realized that something in my head was wrong. This wasn't just this physical reaction that I was having to substances that made me want it more. Like something was wrong in my mind. And, here I had trauma. So it was very, I had been labeled the crazy girl in many circumstances. And I was like, they're right. I am crazy. And so I had talked to my mom about having electroshock therapy. I'm like, maybe that will help. But she was kind of, she was
getting on board.
She was. I mean, here she's like exhausted on me. And she's like, yeah, you're really struggling. And what would end up happening, I'd get back to South Carolina, I'd reach a new bottom, and I'd get to a treatment program.
The one we've both been to?
Yes.
Okay.
I would end up there by divine intervention, and I would hear the truth about what I suffered from, that I had an illness of the mind, so to speak, and that it was this obsession, this thought that drives out all other thoughts. And I mean, when I heard that for the first time, I was like, wait a minute, all of y'all have had that too? I mean, it was like that big light bulb just went off. It was the overall aha moment. I said, okay, maybe you guys do have a solution here. And I worked the program. It was, they used the 12-step modality.
Yeah.
And I worked all 12 steps. I was in a position of neutrality through that recovery program, and all was well. I mean, I was happy and I was sober, but I failed to, enlarge my spiritual life.
And tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. 9 months sober, and I relapsed. And that's when, like what you were saying, that point where you know that there's a solution, you've tapped into it, and you've gone back, and what a special kind of help.
It really is. And I don't know about you. I needed the relapse. I never, am going to say like relapse. For me, relapse, I don't think is a part of recovery. I think it's a symptom of the disease. But I really needed that because it just proved to me how powerless. It literally proved everything that was taught to me. It was like, oh, you've been taught all these things. You didn't know it now, but now you do. And now watch it happen in real time. Go pick up a drink and watch it happen in real time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even drink in peace. I'd be in trap houses, like explaining, like, this is the allergy and this is the obsession. People are like, get this bitch out of here.
Yeah.
Get her out of here. We don't need all that. And I'm like,
no.
But that was my life. And so, I mean, I know that you relapsed. You'd shared that with me before. While you were working at the treatment center, right? Or was that after?
Yeah, it was like on the tail end. I kind of separated myself, and I was living in an apartment, and they were like, hey, you need to do a
drug test.
And I was like,
run off with a rehab van.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm 9 months sober, so
you're a pro at that.
Yeah. I don't know. They weren't really giving me that much responsibility. Let's be honest here. I'm like driving people to doctor's appointments. So, and they can tell that like something's, so I whole butt, but for a year and a half, like I would go in and out of, the rooms of 12-step fellowship and, in different, and could not get any traction with my sobriety. I get like 30 days, 60 days. And here I was seeing all of these folks that I'd gone to that treatment recovery center with, and they were sober and they had maintained sobriety, and their lives were getting big and rich and full. And they were all younger than me.
Yeah.
Which was the kicker. I was like, oh my gosh. And this 19-year-old, I'll never forget, he turned to me. I mean, I'm friends with him today, but he was 19 at the time. And here I was like 33, and he goes, Ashley, I don't know what to tell you. You know what to do.
Yeah.
And it was just like hearing that from him. And I was like, oh, it's right. But, what finally did it for me is much like what you said. Is like knowing exactly what this looks like and experiencing it in real time, and all of those warnings of keeping up with my spiritual program of action and what would happen if I didn't.
Yeah.
It happened. And, it's like that, what they say, like, you're in the rink with the gorilla, you're not done till the gorilla's done. And
No.
I was able to really, nobody knew what was going on. Like, all of the people I was in recovery with knew, but my mom and stuff, they didn't know that I was in a relapse.
So your mom just thought you were staying sober this whole time?
Yes, because we were living in separate states, right? I was able to, like, keep a job. I was working at a juice bar, it wasn't like I was doing anything. And not that that's not significant, but I could show up, and I probably look like the craziest juice bar working person you'd ever seen. Just real unstable, let's put it that way.
I think I know the juice bar too, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah. So here I am working at the juice bar, and there's like the kids that are working with me are in high school, and I'm like, y'all have to do it this way. And I don't even own the place. I'm not their manager, and they're just like, oh gosh, this lady will not chill.
We don't want to work with that.
We don't want to work
don't
with
schedule
her,
us with her.
that kind of thing. So, I'm trying to hold it together, but folks didn't know. So I wasn't really, you say to the gorilla until the gorilla's off your back, but no one stepped in as far as, because my family just didn't know.
Right.
So I ended up, I don't know, it was just, I was becoming very homicidal and suicidal. Let's put it that way.
That's enough. That's enough to take you there.
I was like a feral animal. Yeah, and I was scared of just like what I was going to do, and I was really scared of going completely wet brain.
Yeah, and it's so scary too. I feel like when you know that there is a solution, when you know and you've had a taste of it, and you just know, like, or you think, for me at least, I thought to myself, like, if I just did this, I could get back in it. I could get back in the flow. Yeah. But I was so deep in the obsession, like there was just no chance that was going to happen unless like somebody stepped in, like the law or my parents, or I went to treatment.
Yeah.
Is that what happened to you?
Actually, it did not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this last time, I had all the information. And so I got on my knees and I begged God to intervene in my life.
Yeah.
And that took a week for me to even get to the process of doing that.
As in, like, you thought, I'm going to pray today, and you just kept putting it off?
No, as in, I know that it's the spiritual divine's will for me to die an alcoholic death. So if I ask for interference, that this power source will intervene.
Yeah.
But I have zero clue what it's going to look like. Am I going to be incarcerated? Am I going to be a paraplegic? What's it going to look like? Yeah. I have zero control over that. So I mulled over that for a week. And then finally I woke up, I took a sip of a warm Corona by the bed, and I got down on my knees and I begged, God, I have no idea to this day. Like, all I know is this everything all encompassing, and a consciousness that's above my comprehension. But I begged it to intervene, and it did so beautifully. I had a newfound willingness. I called the couple that I was living with prior, who were both sober. I called them and asked them if I could come back and stay there. I was staying with a boyfriend at the time, and told them that, I'd been in a relapse. They were like, yeah, we know. And they said, are you willing to pick up a white chip? And they helped me. If it weren't for that couple, I don't know where I'd be today, right? Like, they took me in. I had basically nothing. I had no car. I got another job at another juice bar, and I walked 200. I know, here I was with the juice bar. I had a real juice bar. Okay, nothing wrong with juice bars.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, so I asked them if I could come back, and I got honest with my mom and got honest with all the people in my life, and I went and started this thing all over again. And I had this, like I say, a newfound willingness. I asked, a woman to take me through the work, and she didn't do it the way I was taught in this, that recovery center. But I didn't care. I was like, hey, and that's like the open-mindedness, right? As I said, okay, whatever you say. It was like, all I needed to say was, okay, where do I show up? Okay, where do I show up?
Yeah.
And that's, the rest is history. I've been able to maintain sobriety now for 10 years. And it's these simple things that I get to do every day that keeps me in fit spiritual condition. And, that first year I had such little, as far as no core,
Yeah.
but I had this true happiness and joy.
It's humility.
Yeah, it was.
First year of sobriety is beautiful.
Yeah.
Second year, third year, I can't speak to. But what I think is really cool and inspiring about your story, and I know some of your story, is that you eventually moved and graduated into being a professional interventionist, which is, I guess, ironic in a way. And I'm so curious, like, how that came to be, like how you went from, high functioning alcoholic, bottom of the barrel heroin addict to a professional interventionist.
I mean, that's the natural order, right? What are you talking about? I don't think I was made for any other job. I tell you
Yeah.
that. I have such passion because I did not need to suffer the many years that this disease took from me.
Yeah.
But my family just simply didn't know what they didn't know. So my passion for the work I do is really working with families.
Yeah.
So their person of concern doesn't have to take all these hits to their soul, right?
For sure.
This disease tells us that nothing's happening when you have it, and that you've got it and everything's under control. And it simply wasn't. And I could have, really my work is just to help families not suffer as much as my family had to suffer.
Yeah. And how did you get into being an interventionist?
Well, I got thrown into business development, which I didn't even know that was a job. If you like any given Tuesday, I'd gone to all these treatment centers and different programs that everybody in the recovery community knew if you needed help, just call Ashley.
Yeah.
So it'd be like any given day, and I'm just like fielding calls that people need to get into treatment, just need to go to a meeting, whatever the case may be. And I didn't know people did that for work.
Yeah.
Somebody like recruited me into doing business development. I quickly found out I do not like business development, but what I do like is helping families. And, I work a style of intervention. It's not just like I'm coming in for an hour, much like, and no disrespect to the show, but I think there's a lot of drama,
Yeah.
and my goal is to de-escalate all that, for it to be as less drama as possible, and to lay out what that person and the family's life looks like to fully embrace recovery, right? And some people they're not there yet. They need to have that powerlessness exercise. And I set up that incubator of what I call an incubator of powerlessness by asking the person, what would you like to do? And let's start there and see if you can maintain sobriety on your plan, which I think is very important. There's immense value in that, because I needed to see if I could maintain sobriety on my plan.
Yeah.
And there was lots of failed attempts, but to do that under the microscope of the family and supportive family and friends network, it kind of takes all that time that I was out using, and you can condense it down to a 6-month period.
Bringing them to their bottom, essentially.
Yeah.
With the safety of their, family and loved ones.
And having, all the best resources put in place.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool too. Like working with families, I was the master manipulator. I could get my parents to give me whatever I needed, whatever I wanted to keep me going. And having someone, I think, step in and being like, we're not going to do that anymore is so important, because it really does. I think a big part of it can start with the family. It sounds like that was part of your story.
Yeah.
Your mom cutting you off.
Changed,
Yeah.
right? And it is counterintuitive, right? It's like, my kid is sick. They should be coming home and living with me.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way this game of addiction rolls. It's so a lot of the things that I ask families to put into place, and the healthy boundaries that I ask them to start establishing, at first doesn't feel right, because they're swinging from this pendulum, so to speak, of of emotions, either being resentment or guilt. And so a lot of work is needed to be done inside the family unit.
Yeah. Well, and it's such like it's such a touchy thing too, because a lot of parents, I feel like, are inexperienced with addiction and alcoholism. Like this is their first time.
Yeah.
Like I work in recovery as well, and you'll get parents on the phone and you're throwing out words like PHP and like detox, and like this is their first time. They have no idea how to wield all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so even just having someone like you there in their corner to like guide them through this process, like
Yeah.
you are doing the Lord's work, honey.
Yeah. And I love it. I honestly
Yeah.
do. And so my job is just to be at the helm of it and plug them into all the resources.
And you have a
They-
program for the family too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Set up. Yeah.
Yeah. I
There,
have
no
a curriculum
enabling
that
here.
that I run through.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I think about interventions, I think about the show and all the drama and the humiliation that comes with it. I've had my own intervention. It was dramatic, humiliating, but I needed it because it brought me to a place of humility. And I was able for the first time to see like how my behaviors were not only impacting my own life, but like how they were impacting my family members
Yeah.
and my friends and the people that really
Absolutely.
cared about me.
Yeah.
And creating a space where that could happen. Like it was crazy. You know, it was all the girls I lived with in college kind of sitting me down and saying, you're fucking up your life and it's impacting us. Like you got to make a change.
Yeah, it there's just this huge draw that comes whenever you see everybody that you know has nothing but your best intentions,
Yeah.
standing before you. And it's very uncomfortable when people are willing to step outside their comfort zone and do something for the person they love. I think that's recognized on a soul level.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Yeah.
What is your what is your company called? Like,
Ashley Gaede Interventions.
and you're Ashley Gaede.
I am Ashley Gaede. It's a weird last name, but you're going to put all the details.
I'm going to put
on
all
your
the details.
podcast. Yes. I mean, the single most important thing I can say to families is, look at the resources that are out there. There's programs like Al-Anon, getting linked up with a therapist that knows a lot about substance use disorder.
Yeah.
And for the family to start doing these things, to see an individual therapist for themselves, to go to Al-Anon and other recovery programs for themselves, to get educated.
I mean, it's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
down and
Thank
sharing
you
your
so much
story
for having
today
me.
for round 2.
All right. Yes, I appreciate it.
This has been
Thanks,
lovely.
Riley. It's
I hope
always good
you,
to be with you.
I know we've had the pleasure of traveling together.
We have.
And now we're here
yes.
in the studio.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with me,
Thank
Ashley.
you. All right, dear. Bye.